Welcome to This Week in X, talking about Wolverine issue number 13 out on the 23rd of June here on the Hellfire Gala red carpet. And we are going to give our initial reactions to this, starting with Tyler.
Am I reading X-Force and Marauders?
Harry.
This didn't need to be two parts.
Fariha.
This isn't a Wolverine issue. And Pierre.
Turns out all we needed for a good Wolverine issue is for him to only be in 30% of it. All right, well, we seem a little bit united in our opinions, but let's dig a little deeper here on This Week in X. All right, folks, we are here to go a little bit deeper than that on Wolverine number issue 13. Number issue, because let me tell you, we don't really coordinate this ahead of time. Like, we put in our notes of what we have to discuss, but we really are careful not to share our opinions. So when we do that and all four of us say really similar things, that's always gonna lead to an interesting discussion, or not, we'll see. So
this is for the issue if it's bad.
So this is your standard warning, your spoiler warning. We're going to talk about all of the issues out this week, past issues of the Hellfire Gala. We're going to talk about other things in the Marvel Universe. I bet Free is going to spoil a past Deadpool run for you today.
Yes.
You've been warned. Yeah, it's all going to happen. All right, folks. Wolverine number 13. Let's get a slightly full reaction without getting too deep into individual plot points, which we will then progress to, beginning with Tyler.
Sorry, Harry. I think I'm going to say something which you have prepared to say too.
All right, let's just get it going. Come on.
Okay, I'm pretty bitter that this story gets drawn out over 2 issues, while another much better book has to be cancelled with less than 2 issues notice. Like, why? Why?
It's obnoxious.
Yeah. So to be fair, this is a perfectly good issue of X-Force with some Marauders mixed in. This is just not Wolverine. I'm not sure why this is here. The art is okay.
Okay, so I know that this book was pitched as kind of like, a return to more normal kind of standard Wolverine stories, like something familiar for the line. That's how I always interpreted it. But this isn't even a good version of that. And like just the fact that like we have this big month of interconnecting stories and like a lot of like they're trying different stuff out, it's not all working, not all the issues are great, but they're experimenting and they're doing different stuff and it's like different perspectives. And then meanwhile you just have this dry as dust, like super just straightforward, kind of boring Wolverine story that like doesn't really feel like a Wolverine story, doesn't really feel like X-Force. There's a little bit of Marauders, and like it's so underwhelming. I guess like structurally it's fine and it works, but like just considering what it's all stacked up with, it's not even close. I'm pretty down on this issue.
Fariha.
I saw this one comment in some location where someone said that I'm only following X-Men, X-Force, and Wolverine, and I dropped X-Core, Sword, and X-Factor. Since seeing that, I have been seething in anger about Wolverine, like about existence of Wolverine, including Laura and Gabby, like all of them. No. Having said that, this is an X-Force issue. This should be an X-Force issue. And there are some really good elements in it. First of all, Swamp Thing is now a Marvel character. Who knew? The second thing, I am very sure Mystique killed Kristen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm 100% sure. And that's also very much lines with Jason Aaron's Wolverine, where Mystique is kind of one of the bad, the bad guy that he's hunting down. I thought that kind of where it's going with this. So that's kind of like, sort of interesting. Sage suddenly became a character, like out of like, after being just a tech savvy person. Now she's like, I'm in charge, get away from it. And there is a reason Deadpool continues trying to get into Krakoa. And I really, really hope they pay us off. And I'm going to talk about it later. So based on that, if there's something, but this should not be an Wolverine issue.
Exactly. You made this sound great. That sounds like so much better than what I read. Wow.
I mean, if you look at it as an X-Force issue,
yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. I largely agree with Fariha. This was a pretty good comic book. It wasn't a Wolverine comic book. Wolverine was on 6 of 20 story pages here, not counting the data pages. In X-Force 2 weeks ago, he was in 7 of 20 pages. So I don't understand why you wouldn't, other than that Kassar drew that, and I think Scott Eden draws this, I don't
Yes.
know why you wouldn't just switch them. Percy wrote both of them. Kassar can draw Wolverine. Wolverine was in the other issue more, and also he felt like more of a force in the other one. Like he had more to do with the Shi'ar diamonds. But now we're getting into plot things. I'll say, I think this looked really good. Scott Eaton to me is like always on this razor edge. I think it has to do with who inks him. Sometimes he draws these really well-defined, kind of very kind of grounded in life characters that I really enjoy seeing. Sometimes everybody kind of just looks like a boring blob. And I think that this is really good Scott Eaton. I think it's colored really, really well. This is Matt Wilson coloring, I think. Yeah, like, which he's been on this title, although not every issue. I mean, if you have Matt Wilson coloring you, your book is gonna look good. So this has a lot of things going for it. And honestly, as an X-Force comic, it's great. It pays off stuff that's been happening since the first arc of X-Force. So like, I get that in an event, there's some horse trading that goes on and some people kind of move their plots around, but it just seems like poor planning to me that there's no actual book where Wolverine matters. And you should have just double shipped X-Force. Like, why? Maybe some of these plots are going to move into being Wolverine plots, which would be cool because the plots in this book so far suck. But I just don't understand. I don't understand.
No, I mean, that's my point, right? Like Fariha complained that Marauders has nothing for the Hellfire Gala issue of Marauders, did nothing. So why do we have a Marauder subplot here? That should have been there.
Well, even
that 3
X-Force
pages
kind of
has
had
to
a
be
Marauder
there.
subplot because it was all about
I mean, I understand that maybe Percy and Dugan are buddies and they are like exchanging certain things, and Dugan is like, oh, can you put in this 3 pages in your Wolverine because you have 2 issues to really work in a 1 issue story that doesn't have to be spread out into 2 issues, and whatever. But I mean, I that's the thing. Like, I don't want to be down on a really good issue, because I really think that there's a good payoff here, but I'm just bitter about this whole thing. Like, this is part of X-Force. Just keep it in X-Force. Why are we having Wolverine? Why are we robbing another good book of potential money? Because,
exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Let's
and I
do
think
another,
there's an argument to be made that I don't want to have be lost on us, that during an event like this, there's a certain amount of osmosis between books. It's low pressure systems and high pressure systems, and the plot moves around. And I don't think any one of us is necessarily saying this book is bad because it touched on plots from other books. Actually, I think a lot better than Marauders or X-Force did. I think of the 3, this is the best one. But I think we're expressing that frustration of like, why bother to sell it under Wolverine? Doesn't this show off how creatively bankrupt this Wolverine title has been? But let's get into the actual plot of this. And I want to start it with Fariha. So it seemed like, based on X-Force, that this book was going to be a lot about Wolverine's continuing fight with Deadpool. I mean, it's on the cover. Wolverine, however, doesn't fight with Deadpool at all here. Deadpool is mysteriously absent, and if you line up the times, there's like an hour or 2 time gap where I guess he's just burning on the beach after Domino's sets him on fire, and then he comes back at the last possible second. Really has very little plot consequence here, but contributes a rambling and honestly intriguing data piece at the end, making his case for being allowed on Krakoa. So what are your thoughts on Deadpool here in this Wolverine comic?
So in Kelly Thompson's Deadpool, he tried to come in because he thought that the flower is going to cure him of cancer. That's what he keeps on saying. He kept on rambling about that. And then Emma Frost is like, no, we can't cure cancer. Apparently that's a thing now. And get off the island, But he keeps coming back. And the reason for that is his daughter, Ellie, is a mutant who is currently in witness protection in Arizona with with the ex-Shield agent. And I'm pretty sure he's trying to come to Krakoa to figure out what Krakoa is and how Krakoa is operating so he can make a decision as a dad whether he can bring his child here.
Nailed it.
I really hope that's the book.
If that is the thing that pays off, I will take back everything I said bad about Wolverine. Like,
don't go that far.
Mr. Percy, if you can get that, and Percy doesn't do it, Dugan should end all his friendship with him because these are all Dugan's Deadpool people.
Or Dugan
Friendship
could
with
do
Percy over.
Yeah, friendship
Now I'm
over.
only friends with Fariha.
It's exactly. There's a concept in Bangladesh which says that I'm cutting with cutty, as in I'm done, friends, no more friends. We do it as children, grade
Wow.
before preschool, in preschool and stuff like that. So I feel like they should do it, just go never again.
With your pinky, is that the official? Is that if I go like this in Italian?
If you do it with your thumb, then you're back as friend. But if you're doing it as your pinky, then you're done. You're done. No more friends. And we used to do this 3 times a day with the same person because as children. So I feel like that's what's gonna happen. But the thing is, I was actually just fascinated by that because he just kept on rambling, and he's actually kind of became this where he realized that if he kind of puts himself as a buffoon, people don't take him seriously, and he can actually go into places and do things that others will not suspect. So I feel like there's a particular reason he's especially acting as a buffoon, not to mention he also knows these people and he knows that he can't just go straight face, but he's actually going there as an undercover to figure out if this is the perfect daycare for his kid.
Well, the story that you were talking about happens in Deadpool issue 6. So yeah, so I mean, just wanted to point out.
Yeah, if people haven't read it, it's actually very entertaining.
It's very good. And it's about Kelly Thompson screaming at ex-office that she's no longer writer. I'm telling you. That's what it is.
Spoilers, Kelly Thompson now gets to write Spider-Man, so I think there's a happy ending in this for everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Any other comments on Deadpool?
I think that's really optimistic about Deadpool. I found this to be it's not the worst Deadpool voice. It's perfectly fine, totally acceptable, but I'd rather someone else kind of resolve this thing with his daughter if they were to go forward, because I like a good Deadpool voice, and this isn't there yet. But maybe it could get better.
Dugan is the only one.
Well,
Dugan's good.
I want to now highlight a different plot point that I'm going to turn over to Tyler. So this has 2 threads that are kind of being braided together. One is the Terra Verde thread from the original X-Force arc that where Beast kind of put his own programming on top of their programming, not only to observe what they're doing, but also to suppress their plantinals, as our colleague Zach Rabaroff has deemed them. But then also the plot from X-Force earlier this month, where Emma pretty much just puts her diamond heel down and says to Sage, who you have to remember that Emma has a history with, are you seriously doing this? Really? And Emma almost kind of deputizes Sage to go and then kick Beast's ass on her behalf to be this is not what we're doing now. Emma, both as the party planner and as a member of the council and as, Sage's former queen. So there's layers.
Dang it.
So I want to just turn over this whole bundle of plot to Tyler to try to make some sense of for us and to let us know if we've missed anything interesting.
Well, initially I was thinking, when did Beast reprogram the Terra Verde Telephonics? Because he reprogrammed it, he messed it up, the entire country got taken over. And it took the combined force of Sage, Jean Grey, and Black Tom to basically, Trojan horse in as a sort of a biovirus to kill it. So, and the stories end there, and apparently not, because bees basically, off panel and off data page reprogram the Terra Verde telephonics after X-Force issue 10.
Oh, is that your read, that there was more reprogramming?
I'm pretty sure that's the case, unless the whole Trojan biovirus thing basically allows Beast to take control of it. So and my read initially was that the entire population of Terra Verde was being wiped out, and apparently not in this issue, because after they hand over the control back to Terra Verde himself, one of the ambassadors was drinking with Wolverine in Green Lagoon. So there was this part which was kind of confusing for me, and it actually made me go back and reread some parts of the original arc in X-Force. So, and I mean, a few things here that I thought was kind of satisfying. The slap that Sage gave Beast was pretty satisfying because he has been really condescending to the entire X-Force, except for
Right.
Jean, because he couldn't. I mean, Jean basically, gave it to him, and then the other thing happens like towards the end, where he argued with Emma and gave his reasoning. It's like, hate me. I'm doing this for the good of Krakoa. And this is the part that this is the part that I think is really good, because part of it is that my read is that part of it is that he's drunk on power, and part of it is because there was a time when the mutants were nearly wiped out and he could not do anything to help. He tried consulting with the brains. He tried consulting with the villains. Nothing was done. He couldn't do anything. So I feel like, in this era, he's doing both. He's drunk on power for sure, but he's also being preemptive. He's afraid that the mutants are going to end up like that again.
Like Fariha.
No, but I mean, that's the part which I thought was was really good. And I mean, of course, the Marauders plot, that part I think we can hand over to someone else to talk about it.
I mean, that scene is like solid. The scene of Beast being like just completely full of himself, but like it is different than other arcs where, I mean, other stories where they kind of put him in this more nebulous place, because even like his coworkers are like, you are the worst, like we really don't like working for you. So it's like it's pretty like textual now that just Beast is just kind of like a pain in this series. So like I kind of like it more weirdly now. So I'm just kind of curious to see where it goes next. It's way funnier to see all of his coworkers just like, oh yeah, our boss is the worst.
Well, and we've mentioned it many times, but intercut with this is the Marauders ship with Christian at the wheel. He is murdered, tossed off the ship, and the ship, presumably with the Shi'ar diamonds that were loaded onto it, disappears into the inky waters of the night to be relocated somewhere, much to Emma's surprise, which feels like a huge setup. And it'll be interesting to know where that winds up being played out, whether that'll be in X-Force and Marauders or maybe even in Inferno, since it seems like the odds-on person to have done that is Mystique. I want to now wrap this up, though. Go ahead,
One thing
Freya.
I want to mention, though, that Mystique actually put herself into different parts of the gala throughout the different timestamps. She timestamped herself. And
trying to establish an alibi.
Yeah, trying to establish an alibi. And then she just kind of went off. The other thing to mention, though, is based on what Tyler was saying, like this is where Krakoa as a nation have done two things that all nations should go through, is like violently take over a random colony and then give reparation, and then having to give reparation for that. And then also, I feel like every country needs a villain who will do things that are really reprehensible, but it's like, hate me, but it needs to be done, and I'll do it. And
what Beast is turning into Ozymandias.
Exactly.
Like it's the same kind of archetype.
He's becoming Ozymandias, and same way, like like it can be said about certain organization in the United States as well. Like,
I want to talk for a second as our last point about the reparations fact, and I want to start that with Harry, and everybody can jump in, which is that there's a little bit of a sense here, which I think is significant, that this is maybe the first 100% true and irrevocable loss that Krakoa has suffered all along. They did something they shouldn't have. They went somewhere they shouldn't have been. And based on this diplomatic motion in Sage's logbook, here are the reparations. Krakoa is paying $1 billion for economic and emotional damages incurred. X-Corps will disregard all pharmaceutical and technological copyrights as it refers to the telefloronic technology. And they do not have to participate in a Krakoan trade deal. And in exchange for all of that, Terra Vodi will not expose what Krakoa has done. This is more than a slap on the hand. Like, this is even if they have an endless store of money, even if they don't need those patents, this is a big L in the column for Krakoa. Harry, what do you think about that? All of this Beast stuff kind of resulted in their first loss.
I mean, that's what I find interesting is that like this is definitely the biggest loss they've had. But even in Hickman's gala issue, you have Namor rejecting Xavier and Magneto. So there's just been this more trend to show that Krakoa is having some losses, just as many wins as it kind of got in the beginning. And I think it kind of grounds it in a way that makes it kind of like more solid for the story as a whole. But I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go next.
The rite of passage of building a country. Like, that's how you look
well,
at it. And
it actually, what can be interesting is it could introduce like kind of, are you going to enforce your laws? Because at this point, I'm starting to believe more now the Beast could actually get some kind of like pit time, because he really has now caused like I can see him now getting to the point where they might actually like try him for something, but we'll have to see.
Freya, what were you going to say there?
No, I was just saying it would have been better if like someone else enforced that on him, rather on Krakoa, rather than Krakoa themselves saying that we're doing all of this. Like, I feel like that would have made it a little bit more, the loss feel more stronger, versus, oh, we're not going to let them be in the Madripoor port by UN. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wish this was the one that UN is like, I mean, even though the whole thing is whole thing is like, oh, we're not going to expose you, but the thing is, like, it should have been that this got out, UN got a hold of it, and they're like, yeah, no. And I think that would have made sense, and that would have not be like, oh my god, humans are anti-mutant. Like, oh my god, humans, like, people are holding these asshole mutants under, like, for things that they have done, and beasts go into the pit because of this.
All right, folks, that is our discussion on Wolverine issue number 13. If you
Peter,
want to, yes.
Can I interrupt? I'm so sorry.
Oh no. What did we miss?
No, we didn't really miss anything, but we were talking about Mystique being the one who killed Frost, right? I feel like she's still missing one piece here. So my theory is that she's trying to get the logic crystals to Sinister, and because Sinister, as a bribe to Sinister, because Sinister is trying to build his own farm, and of course, to what she's trying to get back is Destiny. So now what they're missing right now is a telepath who can put Destiny's back into Destiny's body.
You know who's someone who's next to a telepath right now in a team? Rogue. She's next to one of the telepath. Get her. Do a Captain Marvel with her.
Well, that's one thing, and then
suck her in.
Well, that's one thing, right? And then the other thing is that the Cuckoos might have awakened a rogue telepath.
Oh, that's possible. That chick who is a mutant now.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's, I mean, this is part of the reason why I think this issue is good. These two things, the Beast part and this whole mystery thing, which theoretically should be in Marauders and X-Force. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it goes to show, though, that we really do need to do a whole episode of Tyler's Receipts after we get done the gala, because there's a lot of things that Tyler's ever watchful eye has noticed that I don't think all of us have. But guess what? That's all for our discussion about Wolverine number 13. If you're looking for our discussions of other X-Men issues out this week, just look elsewhere on the channel, because, oh boy, do we get into it on them. And why, Freya? Why do we get into it? Even Wolverine, which we are not predisposed to like, but actually strangely wound up enjoying.
Because X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. So on behalf of myself, Harry, Tyler, and Freya, I want to thank you for being part of this Wolverine 13 discussion with us. Let us know below, did you like this issue? And do you think if you did, because it wasn't very much of a Wolverine issue, or do you have a different perspective? We'd love to know. And until we get to speak to you again, I am very happy to say that I hope that you're well. I think that's how this ends. I haven't known what I've been saying this entire episode. So I think it's fitting to end on that note as well. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.